Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Wallsend history story. This week I had planned to do another Tales from the Past, but it turned out that the first story I looked at was a lot longer than expected. So this week's story is now about Wallsend Secondary School, which later became the grammar school and then finally the Burnside. It won't be a full history of the school, just some information about when it was first built and a little bit of information about its later years. And I must add, of course, that a lot of the photos used will just be of the location, as I don't have all that many old photos of the school that I am actually able to use. So some of them you may find are unfortunately repeated, because it's pretty difficult to talk about a school and post a photo of something entirely different. But I still hope that you will enjoy it and find it interesting. In September of 1914, the new Wallsend Secondary and Technical Institute schools opened in Wallsend. Now I know that many of you will know where this school was, but also some of you will not be too sure, as this certainly wasn't the name that most people will remember the school as in its later years. Oddly, as it was known by this name for the least amount of time, a lot of people remember it as Wallsend Grammar School, but a lot of people will also remember it by the name it had for the longest, and that was the Burnside Community High School. But I will come back to their name thing a little bit later. So going back now to 1914. The secondary school at the time it opened was described as being built in the English Renaissance style of brick and stone with terracotta facings. It was built on a site of 3 acres. The architect had been Mr. M. J. Martinson of the County Council, and the builder was Mr. J. Douglas of Newcastle. The original estimated cost to build the school had been around £9,000, and in today's money that would be around £1,300,000. However, it seems that the end cost must have been quite a bit more than this, but it seems that they didn't feel the need to tell the people how much it had cost at the time. But it was stated that the people of Wallsend had had quite a lot of influence over the finished school, with one of the officials saying that they certainly knew what they wanted for this school. The school was officially opened by Sir Francis Blake. Now I did have a look around to see if I could find any details of Sir Francis, and I have to be honest and say that I am not sure if this photo is the right one, as there was a choice of 2 who might have fitted the bill. Anyway, he stated that since 1902 the County Education Committee had done a great deal of work, some of it good and some of it not so, but of all their achievements they were not more proud of anything than they were of the new school at Wallsend. It was a fine building, and it was hoped that it would be well used. As for the description of the school itself internally, at the time it was built, it was said that on the ground floor it had 8 large classrooms, an assembly hall, gymnasium and domestic science and mechanical department, with an adjoining boiler room. On the first floor, it said there were chemical and physical laboratories and adjacent lecture rooms, and on the second floor there were art and mechanical drawing rooms and rooms for the staff. Now I'm sure that when I went there the music room was on the 3rd floor, but that could just be my memory playing tricks on me. In a separate block you could find the dining rooms for the students and mechanical instruction rooms, and I don't know what they were. Manual instruction rooms. I still don't know what they are, even if I do get the word right. Anyway, and of course the caretaker's house. In total there was room for 280 pupils, and the school was also to be used for evening classes, and it was stated that evening classes had been asked for as there was a big desire in Wallsend to learn. In reality, it was quite a small school, as some schools such as Richardson D's would have had room for a lot more pupils. As I have mentioned in the past, at most opening ceremonies there would be a gift of a golden key or a trowel if you were laying the foundation stone, but on this occasion there was no mention of anything given to Sir Francis as a memento of his opening the school. So perhaps the tradition had ended by the time the secondary school opened. The school would remain known as the secondary school until 1944, when the education system changed, and it then became known as Wallsend Grammar School. And this name, as said earlier, is one that a lot of people remember it by. But I have to admit that when I first heard someone call it that, I had no idea where the school was, as I had never heard it known by that name, and I actually thought that it must have been an entirely different school and somewhere else. In around 1969 things changed again, and the school was once more renamed, and this time the school was named by the pupils, and it became known as the Burnside Community High School, although I only ever knew it as the Burnside High School or just simply the Burnside. I can understand why this name was popular, as the school did stand right beside the burn. And the Burnside is the only name that I truly know the school by, as that, as I've said, was what it was called when I went there just a few years ago. Of course, by the time I went to the Burnside, it also included the old technical school on the opposite side of the field near to the Boyd Road entrance. So I thought I might as well include a little information about that in this video as well. Now, the technical school had been built in 1959 and was officially opened. It had been open for use a little earlier, in January of 1960. And at the time it was described as having space for 660 pupils, which is quite a lot more than the 280 that the secondary school had space for in 1914. And it had been built at the cost of £300,000, which had apparently included £21,000 for equipment. So not only a larger school, but also a much larger cost to build, and that's actually well over £8.5 million in today's money. The 3-storey block in the technical school had 14 classrooms, 3 laboratories, 2 housecraft rooms, a lecture room, a commerce room and a library, and it also had space for art, geography, needlework and clay modelling. It was said that the classrooms could hold up to 30 pupils. The 1-storey building had an assembly hall, kitchens, a dining room, gymnasium, 4 workshops and a drawing office. And joining these was a block that included the main entrance, the headmaster's room and the admin rooms. Going back now to the first school of this video, and I'm sure most of you watching this will remember what it looked like. It was very distinctive, with the big white pillars at the entrance and the brick and sandstone pattern at the front. However, despite what many people think, the building was never listed. I believe there was a request to list it, but those in charge of deciding whether or not a building was worthy of listing simply said there were better examples of the design and style elsewhere, so listing was never granted. Over the years, the 1914 school began to deteriorate. As with most old buildings, this was something that was going to cost a lot to put right, and it would actually be cheaper to demolish and rebuild. And this is exactly what happened to the old secondary grammar Burnside School. And I know that many people were sad to see it go, but it does make sense to cut losses when costs are going to be too high for repairs. And the new school also adopted the Burnside name, becoming simply the Burnside College. It is, of course, a much more modern building, though it is clear that some very small attempts were made to give it a similar look to the old school, as the entrance also has large pillars like the old one did, but they are clearly not the same. and the new school opened in around 2004 at an estimated cost of £15 million. It covers the whole area of the old Burnside and also the area where the central schools once stood. And also in the grounds of the school is the Hadrian Leisure Centre, which has a pool, gym, sports hall and climbing walls, among other things. However, it isn't actually connected to the school as such and is there for everyone to use. The old pillars from what I call the Burnside had been saved and after the demolition, and they would eventually be placed in the grounds of Walland Hall, as you can see from the photo on screen at the moment. And I have to admit to thinking that it was a bit of an odd place to put them at first, but they do kind of look quite good now, and I have kind of got used to seeing them there. The bell tower was also saved, and a few years ago I went to look at it in a salvage yard, and I have to admit that it was a heck of a lot bigger than I thought it was, as it looked much smaller when it was on the roof of the school. It was for sale, I believe, for something silly like £10,000, so I wasn't about to buy it anytime soon and stick it in my backyard, but it was nice to see it. And I had actually gone to see it if it would be suitable for a memorial for something else, but it was far too big, heavy and expensive. But I do hope that you have enjoyed seeing this photo of it. And I do wonder if it is still there, so if anyone knows, do please let me know in the comments below. I do hope that you have enjoyed this short little video. I have to admit that I have kind of shied away from the subject of the Burnside, as I know it always seems to bring up the listed saga and the feeling that it should never have been demolished. But I have to say, as someone who loves the history of Wallsend, I am also a realist, and I know that when something can't be saved, it is not worth leaving it just to rot. I'd love to see all of our old buildings still standing, but we have to think, what would some of them be used for if they were still there today? And would the borough really have made good flats? Was the Carville Road Co-op suitable for conversion to flats? Or was there anything that these could have been used for that wasn't housing? Well, if we are truly honest, I think we do know the answer is no, and that converting these buildings was not really going to be possible. But anyway, I think it's probably best to stop talking about the subject of demolition of our old buildings. So I do hope that you have found this short little video interesting, and I do thank you all very much for watching, and I do hope to see you all again very soon.